同事，財經事務及庫務局局長就行政長會20。
Good morning, everyone. This is the panel on financial affairs, and this is the briefing by the Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury on the Chief Executive's 2017 policy address.
Good
morning. Please be seated. This is the new team from the FSTB. Let me give an introduction. Sitting in the front is the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Mr. James Lau. Next to him is the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Andrew Wong, and then it's Permanent Secretary, Ms. Alice Lau. And the next row is Under Secretary, Mr. Joseph Chan, and Deputy Secretary, Mr. Chris Sun, Deputy Secretary, Mr. Eddie Zhang, and Deputy Secretary, Ms. Winnie Ng. I now ask the Secretary to give us an introduction over the matters covered by the policy address of the Chief Executive. Secretary, please. Good morning, everyone. This is the first time when I come to the panel to give a briefing on policy address. We have already given you a paper setting out in detail new and ongoing policy initiatives. I will use about 10 minutes or less to present to you our major areas of work. As you know that service industry is very important of us. It provides about 250,000 jobs, accounting for over 6% of the working population and 1/5 of our GDP. So we will work with other regulators to promote the development of financial services. There are lots of opportunities given to us by Belt and Road and also the Bay Area. We are working with ministries and commissions on the mainland to work out a general framework for Hong Kong financial institutions to play a role in the Belt and Road initiatives as well as the Bay Area. We also have to strengthen our position as the international financial center, a global offshore renminbi business hub, and international asset management center. Recently, there was an annual meeting with Swiss Bank, and it says that with the pace of normalization of monetary policy of the U.S. will affect us, so we have to tread very carefully. And when it comes to central banks and the adjustment of their monetary policy as well as geopolitical factors, on top of that, there is also global market volatility. We have to closely monitor the financial market to ensure smooth operation of our financial market. The Chief Executive has given instruction to set up the Financial Services Development Council. Well, they will make proposals and they will also monitor the implementation of various measures. We have already convened a meeting. The Hong Kong EX has recently launched a new concept which aims to widen capital markets access by opening up more diverse range of issuers. The Hong Kong EX is collecting views to draw up a framework after taking into consideration the views received. As I said, that we will promote interaction and mutual access of markets under the Belt and Road. We will also develop more financing channels. We will also ask for greater access to the Bay Area. We are also a member of the AIIB, the Asia Infrastructural Investment Bank. We will put in place a number of initiatives to support the work. Well, when it comes to consolidating our position as a global offshore renminbi hub, we will put in place we have the two-way mutual access mechanism. And when it comes to open-ended companies, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority is working on the subsidiary legislation. We will introduce the bill in the coming year to the LegCo. We propose to expand onshore privately offered open-ended fund companies when it comes to tax concession. In order to promote fintech and also innovation and technology development, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority has recently announced information about the regulatory sandbox. There is also the fast payment system, which will be completed next year. This will facilitate payment. There is also the development of initial coin offerings. We'll closely monitor the development in order to promote development of green bond. In the fiscal year of 2018-19, the government will issue green bond to make use of investors and their investments to encourage financing in green projects. When it comes to anti-terrorist financing as well as anti-money laundering, we have in June introduced a bill to combat these activities. We will also improve the regulatory regime of entity auditors. We will introduce a bill to the LegCo. When it comes to insurance, we have completed the second phase consultancy report. We will align ourselves with international standards. The insurance authority will consult the trade. We aim to, in the second half of 2018, introduce a bill. When it comes to the statutory corporate rescue procedure as well as insolvent trading, we are preparing a bill to provide an option for companies in short-term financial difficulties to initiate the procedure instead of pursuing immediate liquidation to wind up the company. We will also introduce a bill to announce that the latest international standard to strengthen our resilience when it comes to global financial volatility. MPF. The DIS was introduced in April this year. We expect the daily fee cap will encourage service providers to compete when it comes to better performance and lower fees. And there is also the MPF under the MPF authority. When it comes to profits tax, there will be a two-tier profits tax rate regime. For the first $2 million of profit, they will be reduced to 8.25%. Thereafter, the standard rate, that is 10.5% will 16.5% will apply. When it comes to unincorporated businesses, the tax rate will be set at 7.5% and 15%. Well, in order to make sure that it will benefit enterprises irrespective of size, we propose to apply this to one enterprise nominated within the same group. The tax foregone as a result will be about $5.8 billion a year. We propose to introduce the bill so that it will be implemented in 2018-19. When it comes to international tax cooperation, there will be 3 different areas. First is when it comes to the application of the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters. It will take effect in Hong Kong so that when it comes to automatic exchange of financial account information in tax matters and base erosion and profit shifting package, Hong Kong will be part of it. On the 18th of this year, well, on the 18th of year, we have already introduced the bill to the LegCo. We plan to, before the end of this year, introduce a bill to put in place the 4 minimum requirements under BEPS and to put in place international standards. When it comes to international tax cooperation, we will continue to widen our network of CDTA, comprehensive avoidance of double taxation agreements. We have so far signed 38 of these. We will continue to expand our network, especially countries in Belt and Road initiatives. Our aim is to take the number of CDTAs to 50 in the next few years. We'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you. We have Mr. Ronick Chan and other members who wish to ask questions. Mr. Ronick Chan. I have a number of questions to ask the Secretary. First, when it comes to FinTech, it is very important to further development of financial services. The administration encourages the adoption of FinTech, and the expansion of a supervisory sandbox is a very good idea. However, when it comes to efficiency of opening account, KYCU is very important. However, in the policy address, it's only mentioned that the banking sector is working on this. So I wonder what the administration can do to speed it up. In the policy address, they said that EID card will be issued shortly. That means there will be a personal KYCU. So this personal and professional information platform, well, it will involve personal particulars, which is more sensitive. Will the administration take the lead to do the KYCU?
The second question is, now the government is promoting green bond, and I really support that. Yesterday, an organization put forward a number of proposals concerning green bond. I think it will take the government some time to digest it. I have a question. Now for green bond, if it's to be popularized, I think it would be best if there can be retail so that people can buy it in the market. Well, will you consider that? Now, if green bond is to be recognized, the interest rate would be normally lower than the average. If you want to attract retail customers, the interest rate has to be higher. So how do you resolve this dilemma? As for offshore RMB, in the policy address, it has included a lot of achievements we have attained up to now. And we are told that it is hoped that there can be more connectivity in terms of RMB business, but it seems that these proposals are quite abstract. So do you have concrete measures to promote offshore RMB business in Hong Kong? Who's going to answer the questions? KYCU. Chairman, I'll try to answer first. Thank you, Secretary. Just now, Mr. Chen asked about KYCU and the banking sector. And the banking sector is actually looking at SMEs. So it's a KYCU for enterprises. Now, we are in constant liaison with the monetary authority, and we are looking into it. For the question just now, for the EID, that is electronic identification for people, the ITB has been studying it. As for personal KYCU, if the government is to take the lead, what should the role of the government be? What we are considering now is that we should have an EID database. As to whether the EID database should be centralized or decentralized, we are discussing it. The government will take a very active role in this issue. As for green bond, yesterday, Unite Hong Kong Fund had a meeting and I was there. They have put forward a series of recommendations. That is how green bond can become a mainstream financial vehicle. And when it comes to tax, would there be any incentive? So for the recognition of green bond, we are monitoring the trend. As for profits tax, under the Hong Kong law, well, for companies with a history of less than 7 years, they would enjoy certain benefits. As for retailing green bond, we haven't considered that yet. Now, because for the retailing of green bond, it depends on the understanding of the people, because the tax rate is not fixed. People are generally more interested in fixed rate vehicles. As for the compliance rates and exploration rates of green bond, it tends to be on the high side. So we have to look at the issuer's directions. As for the offshore RMB hub, earlier on, we know that for the Hong Kong Shenzhen connection and southbound connect, Shanghai Hong Kong connection, Shenzhen Hong Kong Stock Connect and Shanghai Hong Kong Connect, etc. We have been doing a lot of work and we are still moving forward, and we hope that there will be more channels in the future. As for the southbound trading, we are following up, because for Hong Kong systems, certain revisions have to be made so that when the investors come to China, the system is viable. And also for client ID, we are also doing some work. So for offshore RMB hub, our strategy is like this. Now we are discussing with the with Guangdong province concerning the Bay Area. So for financial institutions and professionals from Hong Kong, we hope that they can take part in projects on the mainland. We have had views from all walks of life, and now we are studying the issue. So for the Bay Area development, it will be a stepping stone for us for the Belt and Road Initiative. And AIIB will also be coming to Hong Kong, and if they are going to issue bonds, etc., that will definitely be very beneficial to our banking center. Mrs. Regina Ip, I'm happy to hear the Secretary say that the government attaches a lot of importance to the development of the Bay Area, and you are now talking to the National Reform Committee, and the industry has already made a lot of suggestions. For example, increasing the quota for recognized enterprises, etc. So what is the initial thinking of the government? Well, for RMB, business and a freer flow of RMB as well as accounts. When it comes to the Bay Area framework discussion, we would also pay attention to these. Well, for the mainland and Hong Kong, we already have several connects. As for the Bay Area, maybe it's not about the whole of the Bay Area. Maybe we can start with some places in the Bay Area first. Now, because if we talk about the whole of the Bay Area, it may cover too many scopes. As for the Loop and the Science Park there, Hong Kong will have certain areas there, and Shenzhen will also be developing there. We will be jointly developing the Loop. So maybe there can be technological centers or some special regions on a trial basis. But these are long-term directions. Chairman, Secretary, I agree with you that we should progress in a gradual and orderly manner. But if you wait for the development of the Long Ma Chau Loop, it will take at least 5 years. Now, in Qianhai, there are a lot of pilot projects, but Qianhai is very small. So can you talk to the National Reform and Development Commission? Now, the Bay Area is really big. If you take away the control on capital accounts, it may be too risky, but can you do it gradually? Yes, we are exploring these areas. Well, at Qinghai, there are some suggestions, and they are now trying to harness policy support. Guangdong representatives came to Hong Kong in July for discussion of the Bay Area, and they are also trying to find places in the Bay Area for the things you mentioned just now, but this is just an initial thinking. We will follow up. And we will try to find out if some pilot projects can be carried out there. But these are some very initial thinkings. I have a second question. It's also about the Bay Area. The Secretary may know about this. Well, some governments have a lot of surpluses, and they would build a sovereign fund. Well, in Hong Kong, we don't have to call it a sovereign fund, but it can be an investment fund. Singapore has two. We have a lot of surplus. Can we also create an investment fund for the Bay Area? This is just common sense. A lot of people say that if we started investing in Shenzhen 20 years ago, we would have a huge return by now. Have you thought about that, Secretary? We haven't thought about setting up a fund for the Bay Area. The government's role is a facilitator. So we are discussing with NDRC and Guangdong Province about market access. And also we talk about talents, capital, and information. As for sovereign fund, up to now we have been talking with the FS about this. Under the monetary authority, there is a forex fund. And under it, there is a long-term growth portfolio. We are mainly investing in some long-term vehicles. As for the Bay Area, if it is possible, we will try to think about it. Mr. Wai Kwok. Chairman, I'm also very concerned about the development of fintech in Hong Kong. I think our pace of development is very slow when we compare ourselves with our neighbors. For example, the mainland, we are surprised to find out that we lag behind so much. For example, all sorts of e-payment systems, they are very popular on the mainland. However, in Hong Kong, we just have an octopus. So for payment systems like this, they are very popular in overseas countries. For example, Alipay. As a tourist, he can use Alipay in a lot of places, and it's welcomed by shops. So we are talking about fintech. Some technologies are already very mature, and they are applied in a lot of areas. However, we are still very slow in adopting them. In the government's paper, yes, you mentioned this. But when it comes to the actual follow-up work and the development pace, I am very worried. Well, online technology has brought a lot of opportunities, but there are also risks. We shouldn't underestimate such risks. In your paper, you mentioned ICO, initial coin offerings. I think we really should be concerned about it. You may also need to regulate it. On top of being concerned, don't take action only after victims appear. And there are some other things you are overdoing. That is about the SMEs opening of accounts. Last year, we repeatedly talked about this. And we cry foul for a lot of SMEs. Now, when they do business and they want to open an account, it may take them 1 year or half a year. I don't know whether you are really so worried about money laundering or terrorist funding. Some banks are really doing too much. Well, I can give you an example. Well, this Lion Bank gave me a call one day. He said that he's officer of the Lion Bank and his number is what, his name is what. Well, I said that I can also say that to you. I'm representing the Lions Bank and my name is what.
Well, if you can, you can give me the personal information. I can verify for you. But I was told that, well, I noticed that every month you would issue a check of about $30,000 to a lady. Why? Mr. Low, please be succinct. And I answered honestly. I said, it's a staff member of my ward office, so it is normal for me to pay her salary. If it is an abnormally large amount, then feel free to ask me. Of course, whenever there is a new staff member or a new department, they will always find an excuse to prove that there is a need for them to exist. So this customer due diligence, is it the case that they are overdoing it? The member has asked a number of questions and I will answer them one by one. First, payment system. That is our slow pace in fintech. We see Alipay and WeChat payment. They are popular method of payment on the mainland. But if you talk about Hong Kong lagging behind, first, our payment system, say for example, Octopus and credit card, not so much as checks, but we also have electronic checks. We have online banking as well. So we do have a lot of payment systems. There are so far 13 payment system license being issued, and we also have this faster payment system which will be launched next year. Store value facility operators, there will be P2P payment. I can say that this system will be more convenient than those on the mainland. There are a number of systems on the mainland, but we only need one in Hong Kong. I do agree that when it comes to ICOs, initial coin offerings, in a number of places that has been banned. There are some cryptocurrency transactions that have been banned. And in some other places, they are allowed to operate under supervisory sandbox. There are different ways. In the US, in the UK, ICOs are allowed to work. They are treated as securities and regulated as such. We will look into it to see if there is any gap. Account opening of SMEs. We're aware of the situation. We have issued different guidelines with the banking sector and the Hong Kong MA. Well, on a personal level, we know that there are some PEP, that is politically risky persons. So banks are extra cautious. The Hong Kong MA, it reminded them to use risk-based approach. And back to SME account opening. The Hong Kong Association of Banks and the Hong Kong MA adopts KYCU to deal with this, so that there can be same standards apply. And banks will find it difficult to abide by these standards. Mr. Michael, look, I want to ask about MPF because it's related to all employees, whether they like it or not, and it's related to their retirement. Starting from this year, there was the DIS, Default Investment Strategy, with a fee cap. This is an improvement. But I noticed that some MPF trustees offers a guarantee return fund. Some are doing quite well. I'm not going to name names. And every year the guarantee return can be up to 3.5%. Well, some can be 3%. For others, just some guarantee to be 0, and some covers a longer period. DIS is a new regulatory regime. In the future, would the administration consider this? That is, all trustees will have to make available a certain number of guarantee return funds. These will be genuine guarantee return funds. The return might not be high, but it will offer a return that is more or less the same as inflation. I mentioned 3%, maybe not as high as that, say for example 1.5 or 2%. There's a need for this kind of fund for people who don't want any risk. Carrie Lam promised that offsetting mechanism under the MPF will be abolished. I do have faith that it can be done. The next step will be for the Hong Kong MA and the MPFA to launch full portability. Only with full portability that the MPF market is truly opened. And it's only when the market is truly open that employees will benefit, because MPF companies will try to improve their performance and drive down their costs to be competitive. The fee in Hong Kong is still higher than the international average, which is about 1%. The MPF pool has been running for over a decade. Overheads are fixed, and the fund's been growing for 17 years. So would you conduct some studies? I want to know about the EMPF timetable. I know the MPFA is doing something about it, but it's still on the drawing board. So what is the actual timetable? Secretary, I would defer to Mr. Wong. Let me answer Mr. Look's question. Full portability. Once we have dealt with the offsetting mechanism, then it will be conducive to consider full portability. We will have to wait for the timetable of abolition of the offsetting mechanism before we consider full portability. We have already started studies on EMPF. Under the MPFA, a working group has been formed with all trustees. We hope that by the middle of next year, we will have worked out all the technical issues related to the launch of EMPF. We hope that we will have the option, we will have the proposal to come to the LegCo for funding approval in the middle of next year. Apart from putting in place the platform for EMPF, we also have to work out transitional arrangements, say for example account information of trustees, and for that to be transferred to the centralized platform. Guarantee return fund. Our current approach is to make use of the DIS to put pressure on fees charged. With the launch of the DIS, account holders may choose to move their portfolio to the DIS. You ask for a requirement to offer guarantee return funds. There are many of such products in the market, and if we require all trustees to offer such kind of funds for a specific rate of return, I'm afraid at this stage it cannot be done. Mr. Christopher Cheung. The Chief Executive in the policy address mentioned that Hong Kong will have to work harder to develop fintech. Well, and for the Hong Kong banking sector to further develop KYCU and also to improve CDD, customer due diligence, in the account opening process. Can this KYCU be used in account opening on financial services? Is this KYCU led by the government? We think that, the SFC does not allow online certification. With Belt and Road initiatives, our clientele will mostly be from outside Hong Kong. If online verification or authentication is not allowed, this will be an impediment to the development of Belt and Road initiatives. Can you urge the SFC to conduct a review on account opening process so that it will not be calcified, so that it will move with the times? And also, please look into KYCU and give us some information. When it comes to KYCU, currently the banking sector, that is the Hong Kong AB and the Hong Kong MA, are looking into this system. This system currently is about enterprises only, but at the same time, there is a team looking into personal KYCU. This is now developed by the banking sector, but they need to use a customer database. Which will use the concept of EID. In the future, everyone will have a unique ID. And in the EID database, there will be basic essential information. And under this database, there will be different KYCU for different sectors. Just now the member asked about securities. A lot of them are also customers of banks. So by our design, the database will contain their information. The administration will play a big part in it. But we need to look at time it takes to create this database. Of course, the security sector may create their own system. Say, for example, EMPF, there are 4.5 million participants. There will be about 9 million accounts. We hope that, as a smart city, there will be e-trade, e-government using EID. This will help the use of KYCU in the securities sector.
As for SFC, they have also paid attention to this. So several months ago, they issued a guideline on cross-border account opening. So for this scheme, yes, of course, first it will be for Hong Kong people. However, for the next step, it will be open to people outside Hong Kong, because EID is not Hong Kong's ID card. We have a next generation of ID card, but it's not EID. So EID is not restricted to Hong Kong people. So for the new system, we hope that we can achieve these goals. Well, can the Secretary talk to SFC again? For the information you mentioned just now is only about customers' information, but the SFC may not have enough information of the customers for authentication for account opening. As for the information they need, it depends on different industries. You may just want to open an account, or you may want to buy high-risk products. So when we look at fintech, we have thought about it. For KYCU, we can also add something, that is the product suitability and individual suitability. So can you show us some examples of KYCU overseas? We are now exploring it. When our research is more advanced, well, we will let you know more. Of course, we also want to talk to the industry. Now, EID can help in account opening and the development of the markets. Next, Mr. Charles Mock. Chairman, I want to ask about fintech and its safety. They may not necessarily be new things. As for the existing technologies, well, actually banks are using a lot of technologies. Lately, I've heard from Taiwan that a major bank had some swift attack and it lost a lot of money. So for transactions like this, they happen in the past. I understand that the MA and the government are instructing banks to do a better job in terms of risk management. Now, these incidents happen overseas. But how about Hong Kong? When it comes to risk management, are there new measures which can tackle this? In the future, there will be a lot of new systems, EID, faster payment systems, etc. So have you done anything to improve cyber security so that people can have more confidence in fintech? Fortunately, up to now, Hong Kong hasn't seen major accidents like this. Maybe you have been doing a good job. However, in the future, how can you assure that we can still be safe and people can still have confidence in Hong Kong's cyber safety? Yes, this is a very important issue. That is cyber safety. As for our traditional computer systems, we have a huge concern. So for the Hong Kong banking sector and the MA, they have been attaching a lot of importance to them. And MA joins hands with Treasury to study a blockchain so as to enhance cyber safety. Well, for blockchain, people say that this is a good and safe system. Well, yes, the technology of blockchain has been advancing. However, up to now, it's still not extremely mature. So for blockchain, in Bitcoin, Ether, Ethereum, there have been problems. So when Hong Kong develops fintech, cyber security is one of our priorities, because we know that when information is put on the cloud or highly centralized, the risk is very high. Recently, the U.S. has seen this, that is some of the companies' data have been stolen. So we agree that this is an area that we have to work hard on. As for EID and KYCU, they have high encryption to handle things. As for EID and KICU, when it comes to data storage, photos and bioidentification are our concerns. Encryption technology would have to be employed. So we totally agree with the member. We will work hard in this area. So when you develop fintech, I hope you can pay attention to this. Chairman, yes, you've been talking about blockchains. Last time, we talked to fintech people, and Secretary, you may remember this. That is, the banks are still not using it, so you should be prepared for the future. I hope you can pay more attention to the existing financial institutions. Now, the governments may be monitoring banks very closely, but how about other financial institutions? For example, the financial institutions under SFC. You've talked about traditional computer systems. Well, as I said just now, SWIFT had a lot of problems in the last few years, and these problems are still not resolved. These systems are still in use. They won't disappear overnight. Yes, for mainframe computers and major systems like that, up to now they are still quite safe. Mobile payments, mobile banking, mobile stock accounts, all these are very important in the future. So MA is working with SFC, so they would pay attention to both the conventional methods and the future methods and technologies, including blockchain. The design of EID is very important because we hope that the data can be encrypted. So when banks carry out KYC, the chance of information leakage can be reduced. Well, you can use more advanced technologies, and the transfer of information can be reduced, and thus the risk reduced. Mr. Wong Ting-kwong. Well, for Financial Services Development Council, it has been established for a number of years. But I don't think the people has seen any major achievements by the FSDC. It's not surprising because FSDC does not have a lot of manpower. It doesn't have much resources. And for paragraph 6, you say that you will be giving more resources to the FSDC so that it can enhance its role in conducting strategic research, formulating recommendations, promoting market developments, and nurturing talent. So what will the role of the FSDC be in the future? How can it give full play to its functions? Secretary, I think there will be an incorporation in the future, so can you tell us about that? It says that it will become an independent organization. Secretary, Chairman, thank you for the question. For SFDC, it's not that it hasn't done anything. Well, the government provides more than $10 million a year to the FSDC, and now we have a plan. In 2018 to 19, we will be reporting to this panel, and in our budget, we will make a proposal. That is, we hope that the government plans to incorporate the FSDC as an independent organization. More resources will be allocated to it, and its chairman can do more, and they can conduct more strategic researches. Well, now members of the industry are in this council. We hope that in the future they can employ more people so they can do more in research, formulating recommendations, and nurturing talent. FSDC will rent an office, and their staff pay and promotion will be enhanced. Mr. Wong, Hong Kong is the biggest offshore RMB center in the world. Of course, it's because we are close to China and we are very closely linked to our motherland. So I would like to ask the government, in particular our financial services officials, do you have plans to further expand Hong Kong's RMB business? For example, settlements. Can you talk to the central government so that we can strengthen Hong Kong's position as an RMB hub? Chairman, well, we already have a very good RMB settlement system. And when it comes to swapping, we have an arrangement with the People's Bank. So for our role as an offshore RMB hub, we are already doing it. And 70% of the global RMB settlements are done in Hong Kong. Now, if you want to further strengthen our position, yes, of course, we have thought about that. Well, for CNH and CNY, they are different. So we have to know the difference between offshore and inshore RMB. So for offshore RMB, there should be a line. If we look forward, we can try to find out areas where we can make improvement. As for offshore RMB, when the fixing and interest rate are more mature and internationalized, then we can try to find out ways to improve settlements and payments. Eunice Young, well, for paragraph 12, you've talked about ICO. Well, this has been a heated topic. So for fundraising, the SFC says that digital tokens that offer or sold may be securities as defined in the Securities and Futures Ordinance. So for new developments like this, what long-term plan does the Hong Kong government have?
If it may be securities, so does it mean that it's regulated or not, or is a case-by-case basis? Will the Hong Kong MA define it as currency so that it will be incorporated under the supervisory sandboxes, because that is the case in the US and the UK? And if it is not under the sandbox, what will the administration do? The SFC said that under current Securities and Futures Ordinance, it may fall under the definition of securities, because the definition is it is a collective investment scheme. And if it is an issuance of bond, is security. If it is an equity, then it is security. Then if it is security, if it is a form of securities, then it will be regulated. Same goes for structured investment products. So it may be regulated under the SFO. The member mentioned about overseas regulation of ICOs. China and Korea ban ICOs. There are two parts: cryptocurrency exchange and ICO. There are two different things. cryptocurrency exchange is not banned in Korea, but it is banned in China. In Russia, cryptocurrency exchange is banned. In Taiwan, it's regulated under sandbox. And in the US, is a kind of securities. Say in the US, if it is defined as securities, then it will be regulated. When it comes to major financial centers, we see that there are many different ways that this is handled. We are with the Hong Kong MA and SFC. Well, the Hong Kong MA said that it is not a currency, so it's not a kind of deposit taking. But we have Money Services Ordinance. It's about money changes. If it's blockchain currency, Bitcoin, then it is not money. So under the Money Services Ordinance, there is no regulation. And well, there is also the structured investment product. It's not a virtual currency. It's not money. So we look into ICOs. We will take into account different approaches of and the trade of ICO. In some countries, because it's banned, they will come to Hong Kong. So we urgently looking into this to see what we can continuously do in relation to regulation to plug the loopholes. Well, from what I heard, the secretary is very complicated and different countries adopt a different approach. Yes, we will expedite it. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, 5 minutes. Paragraph 26 is mentions about the new philosophy of Carrie Lam, and it talks about the two-tier profit tax rate as well as the R&D tax deduction. Well, in the past few years, we have some windfall fiscal surplus. The chief executive said she does not agree with the previous financial secretaries in that the surplus should be put in a fund because there is a lack of transparency. So I would like to ask, there are lots of amounts earmarked for, say, universal retirement protection, housing development. But there is nothing like the fund that would generate interest. Sometimes when an amount is earmarked, it's just set aside. But no one knows when the policy will be realized. As a result, the amount is eroded by inflation. So will the administration consider allowing this kind of money to this kind of funding allocation to generate interest so that the purchasing power will not be eroded? The member mentioned about surplus and funds. Most of the funds physical amounts. The only one is the housing fund, which is separate. So there will be interest. The others are just normal funding allocation. Well, the housing fund hasn't really been used, so it's not a matter of whether it's enough or not. Say, for example, there is a separate fund. If there is not enough money, we will come to the Finance Committee. I understand. When there is funding allocation as a basis of policy implementation, say for example, seed fund, shouldn't you show to the public that the administration is determined to do something? Say for example, in 2007 there was the healthcare fund. After a while, the forms changed many times, and in the end, it's the starting fund of healthcare insurance. It gives the impression that it's just some physical trick of the administration by moving the monies around. Well, if it can generate interest, and then there will be pressure on the part of the government for it to actually put in place what they have promised in the first place. Let me first answer Mr. Wu's question. I'm aware of your concern that when it comes to major policy and funding commitment, when it comes to commitment, there are in different ways. A common way is one-off seed fund. That's for recurrent work. It can be a seed fund which will generate interest and is used to pay for the daily operation of the programs. Of course, we have to come to the Finance Committee, so it's subject to thorough monitoring by legislators. There is another type. For projects, we see that it will take a bit of time to launch the program, and it needs the administration's financial support. Then the CE or the FS would make announcements saying that we would make financial commitment. The amount will only be an initial reference, and the amount has not left government reserve. So it's just like other reserve, is still generating interest. You don't have to worry that the amount is locked down and wasted because it doesn't generate interest. And since it is only an initial commitment, it's only an idea that it might be used. When the policy is ready to be launched, we don't have to stick to the original commitment. We can vary it according to the changes in the situation. Anyone in the first round? If not, Deputy Chair, you have some questions to ask in the second round. 5 minutes. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong said that the FSDC will be changed to a higher level. So is it going to be a government body or not? Will it regularly liaise with the panel on financial affairs? this FSDC will change to be an independent organization. The Council has given us some reports on policy levels. There may be good policies, but it doesn't really trickle down to security firms. We need policies that will benefit companies of different sizes. I do think that these reports are lacking in initiatives to promote market development of small and medium-sized security companies. And when it comes to the composition of the Council, can there be representatives of small, medium-sized security firms? The budget of FSDC, every year they come to the Finance Committee to seek funding approval. So it's a part of the expenditure of the Bureau. And the member asked about representativeness. We haven't started thinking about it yet, but there will be broad representation. That is beyond doubt. It's just that it wants to incorporate as an independent organization to meet the needs of the market and the industry. We will leave it to the FSDC to look into composition. Representativeness, there will be broad representation. So it will develop along this line. We hope that SMEs will not be marginalized. Currently, there are representatives from SMEs in the FSDC. We'll continue to encourage their participation. You mentioned about reports. They are more about global matters. Hong Kong is an international financial center, so a lot of the issues are major issues. But for some other trades, for small, medium-sized security firms, SMEs, if they are affected, we will encourage them to compile a report to see what is needed on a policy level. But if there are representatives from SMEs, then they will not be so detached from reality. However, when it comes to these reports, we see that they don't respond to the aspirations of SMEs.
Yes, your views will be relayed. Well, I would like to ask some questions. For SFDC, after it's incorporated, who will be the major shareholder? Well, our initial thinking is that this operates will be a company limited by the guarantee. Then who is the guarantor? They would have to look at it. Most likely it's the government, or it's a public organization. It's not a private organization. So how about a subvention from the government? Is an item under FSTB? Yes. Mr. Chen Zhenying. Thank you, Chairman. Paragraph 14 is about the position of Hong Kong as an international financial center. You are saying that Hong Kong will be developed into a broader platform for fundraising in the new economy, and there will be strategies to widen our capital markets. Well, but capital markets is more direct. However, there's an indirect channel, that is the banking sector. Now, for the development of the Belt and Road and the Bay Area, indirect fundraising is very important. For the Belt and Road Initiative, if indirect financing is to be done, that is to fundraise in those places, then a double taxation has to be avoided. Now, because we will be receiving interest from other countries and we will have to pay tax. Paragraph 35 is about comprehensive avoidance of double taxation agreements, and now there are 38 tax jurisdictions which are in it. Now, how many of them are the Belt and Road countries? Yesterday, FSTB said that ASEAN will be a center, and there are 10 countries in ASEAN. How many of them have signed the CDTA? And how many more will join in the short term? And second, for indirect fundraising, if you go to other countries to do projects, you would have to communicate with the local governments. As a commercial corporate, if you want to communicate with other countries' governments, it's not that easy. Hong Kong has a lot of ETOs overseas. So when it comes to indirect fundraising, how can our overseas ETOs help? Secretary, for direct and indirect financing and the Belt and Road Initiative and the Bay Area, we will try our best to gain better market access. As for the CDTAs and avoidance of double taxation agreements, for these 38 tax jurisdictions, some of them are ASEAN countries and the Belt and Road countries. For example, Malaysia, Cambodia. Well, we understand that the CDTAs are very important. And there is one thing we have to fight for. That is about the tax information exchange, and there is a multilateral convention. Under CDTA, we have this kind of information exchange arrangement. However, some other countries may not think that CDTAs are necessary. But we have to seize the opportunity of working with the Belt and Road countries, so we'll continue to develop in these areas. Mr. Chen, I have another question. So if we have some financing projects in the Belt and Road countries, then we need to communicate with the local governments. How can Hong Kong's overseas officers help? Yes, we understand that doors have to be opened. Our last government has sent delegations to countries in Central Asia. So different departments and bureaus will be doing more, and we will try to open more doors in these Belt and Road countries. Members can also give us views. If you want us to help you knock on doors, we will definitely help. Thank you, Chairman. No more questions. I have some questions myself. I've been listening to officials and members, and I have several questions. For Eunice Yeo's question about ICO, well, ICO has not been defined by the MA yet. It may be a collective investment, it may be an equity offering, or it may be a derivative. But I have another perspective. Well, will you classify it as a commodity? Well, it is a cryptocurrency, but have you considered other possibilities? As for green bond, Mr. Chen Jinping has also asked a lot of questions. But I think you are putting the carts before the horse. Of course, we will encourage statutory bodies, for example, the airport authority, to issue green bonds. But for the relevant authentication, I hope that you can come up with standards so that we can take the lead in Asia. So what's the progress in this area? And about the payment system, I understand MA will launch a faster payment system very soon. Of course, there are a lot of payment systems on the mainland which make use of the mobile phones. But we also have contactless payment. So what is Hong Kong's development direction? Of course, this should be driven by the market. But does the government have any inclination? Do you want to adopt the mode of Alipay or some other wireless payment method? There are a lot of choices in the market, and there are different technologies. The penetration in the market is very important. If shops do not use it, it's useless. Now, I think we should be able to use credit cards and wireless payments in taxis, but now we still use cash in taxis. So this is really inconvenient. So market penetration is very important. 3 questions. Chairman, first of all, about ICO. It is a cryptocurrency and it is a commodity. It is not defined as a security, so the SFO is not applicable to it. As to its definition and the mention of a collective investment tool, for the operation mode of ICOs, it has to be caught by the definition before it can be regulated. SFC cannot just say whether it is or not. Well, SFC has made some remarks, and that is why we will so have to look into it and try to find out whether there are gaps. As for the green bond, if Hong Kong is to be a green finance hub, and as China may have an annual fundraising need of 2 trillion yuan. And in 2016, China issued 36 billion yuan's worth of green bond. Many of them are overseas. And in China, they may not have enough green capital. So there are more green investors in Europe. So if we become a center, we have a lot of opportunities. And the chairman is right. That is about authentication. Now we are encouraging local organizations to look into this. We hope that they can come up with a second-party or third-party authentication or accreditation which is of world class. As for payment system, the MAS issued 13 licenses, and lately it is reported in the newspapers that there are some cooperations with Hong Kong's conglomerates. We are not picking winners, and we are not saying that we will support a certain organization. So when it comes to infrastructure and the faster payment system, we actually will use this method to encourage the developments in this area. And the government is looking into it That is, how can the government make more use of a mobile payment system so that the market's penetration can be better? Members, do you have questions or do you have any suggestions for AOB? If not, I would like to thank members for attending the meeting. I would like to thank the government officials as well. See you at the next meeting.